Just because someone is good at what they do does not mean they're right for you. So we really need to focus.
Hold on. Can you say that again? That's really good.
Just because someone is good at what they do does not mean they're right for you.
I love it.
Hey, it's Rebecca, and you are listening to Resilient by Design. Today's episode is for all of you looking to hire. It is for anyone who has never hired, maybe has hired and it didn't work out, or is currently running with a team and just looking for ways to improve that process. This is a really good conversation. It's one that I've been wanting to have for a while. It is tied to scaling your business a little bit, but at the same time, I feel like it applies to anyone just looking to hire their first assistant. I know, I wish I had this episode to listen to before I began hiring for my business like 9 years ago, because I've made so many mistakes. Our guest is Jamie Van Cuyk, and she is the owner and lead strategist of Growing Your Team. She helps women and small business owners become confident leaders who hire right every single time. She has over 15 years of leadership experience, and she teaches her clients how to master that art of hiring because, honestly, it doesn't come naturally to all of us. And Jamie, she's from Florida, where she lives with her husband and her 2 daughters. She's a hobby winemaker. She loves to travel, and she does some interesting things in her free time, including rock climbing and aerial dance. We did not dive into that. So Jamie, we're going to have you back to talk about that because that is very intriguing. But truthfully, this was a really great conversation. I actually took a lot away from my own hiring and my own business. And if you guys have followed my journey at all, I've gone from having 1 or 2 people to like a thriving team of 6 people to back down to 4. And it's continually in flux based on the projects that we have and what's going on. And so I think that this episode really resonated with me. Jamie gets into the details and the distinctions between hiring salaried employees versus contract or freelance. She talks about the onboarding process, what you need to have set up before you bring somebody into your team and how to make it work. She talks about why you need to hire to scale your business and how you can prepare to interview the right candidates. So I think if you are looking to grow or hire or fire or any of those things, then this episode is definitely going to be for you. Enjoy my episode with Jamie. All right. I'm Rebecca Hay, and I've built a successful interior design business by trial and error, podcasts, online courses, and so many freaking books. Over the last decade, I've grown from an insecure student to having false starts to careers, and now I'm finally in the place where I want to be. Throughout my journey, it's been pretty obvious that I'm passionate about business and helping other entrepreneurs do the same. Each week, I'll share tangible takeaways from my own experience and the experiences of other badass women to help you build your confidence and change your business.
Welcome to the podcast, Jamie. We've been trying to get this interview in the books for some time now, so I'm glad we finally made it happen.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Rebecca. Yeah, I'm so excited that we're finally having this conversation.
Yeah, and this is going to be such a good conversation because I get these questions all the time. But before we dive into all the juicy goodness, why don't you just introduce yourself to my listeners in your own words?
Yes. So I am Jamie Van Cuyk. I am the owner of Growing Your Team. At Growing Your Team, small business owners hire us to guide them through the hiring process and the onboarding process. So that way they can really learn to hire like a pro and get the right people on their teams that are going to meet their expectations and that they're going to be happy giving a paycheck to.
So good. I will be totally honest. This is the thing that I think I have. Sorry, if you can hear my dog barking in the background, my apologies. He actually went to live with the in-laws during the pandemic, and he's only back for a few days, and I forgot how barky he is. So I apologize. I'll do my best to mute myself. But this is the thing that I have struggled with the most in my business. I will tell you point blank, the people side, the knowing what to hire, when to hire, who to hire, how much to pay them, when to know if I can hire, everything that goes around with that, for me, yes, giving up control, and we'll talk about that, has been the biggest struggle that there's a lot of learning curves when you run your own business, but this one for me, I would say is it's like number one. I don't know if you hear that a lot, but that's been my experience.
It is. And that's actually how I got into this. I originally left my corporate job. I loved my corporate job, but I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to run my own business, be my own boss. And I left to start a different business that I hated. About 6 months in, I'm like, oh my God, this is not for me. I need to get out of here. I need to do something else that I love. And I kept thinking, like, what do I do? And I knew I wanted to do something in consulting. And I thought I was going to do corporate leadership consulting. And I went to chamber events because I was like, all right, I need to start networking. I need to start meeting other corporate leaders and figure out what exactly I should be pitching to these companies. And I kept finding myself drawn to speaking to small business owners instead of corporate people. And I was just like, all right, well, let me get some market research anyway. What are their struggles? And hiring is what came up over and over and over and over again. I heard stories of people being like, I've 8 years in my business and I finally made a good hire. And I've had to hire and fire so many people because I didn't know what I was doing. And it really made me realize that most people don't hire anybody until they're doing it within their own business. Or if they have hired people before, they had the companies they were working for really provide them everything. That all they had to do was make a decision, but everything was provided to them. And they had other people they could rely on when they weren't sure to help guide them to the right person. And now they were doing it on their own. And I was just like, all right, well, there's this struggle out there. I have the knowledge and expertise to help people in this area. Why am I not doing that? And I love it now. It's been 5 years and I couldn't imagine doing anything else.
I love that. So, I mean, it's so interesting that you chose entrepreneurs and small business over corporate. And I can see why. And you're so right. I mean, a lot of designers listening are doing this as a second career. So many of them worked in corporate. And some of them had teams. And someone listening might say, yeah, I used to have people, but they were not the HR department. They were not responsible for all things determining when you need a hire, how much to pay that hire, and what does that role look like, and how do you delegate the tasks? Because a lot of large organizations have systems in place. They have processes. They have, and that's something I'm super passionate about. I talk about how you need a process in your business because a lot of small businesses don't have that experience and they just kind of fly by the seat of their pants. And it's like, oh, I'm busy. I need to hire someone. So I think you found a really good niche because there's definitely a need for it. What would you say is the number one obstacle facing creative entrepreneurs or small business owners with making their first hire?
Yeah. So I really feel like a lot of the times it's recognizing that you actually need somebody and taking that first step to like give up some of that control. And it just comes, I think, a lot of with the personalities of the people who are going to go start their own business. Starting your own business is not easy. Like there's nothing easy about it. It takes a lot of ambition. It takes a lot of drive. It takes a lot of rolling up your sleeves and just getting things done. So we get into these habits of getting things done. And early on, you have to do it all because you don't have the financial means to pay someone to do it. So you're used to doing it. So then all of a sudden it has to be the shift of, oh, I can hire somebody. I can do this. And especially like I work with a lot of women entrepreneurs, and women sometimes have a really hard time of giving up control because of the fact that they kind of see it as at first a sign of weakness. So you look at stuff, it's like, oh, I can't do this all on my own. I need help. And it's almost like this negative thing. And like I try to switch that to, you should be excited that you need help, that you can no longer do it all on your own. But, just kind of going back, it's like we're used to just piling little and more on our plates. And to realize that we're at the point where there's really too much on our plate, that we're the person that's actually holding back our growth, it's hard for a lot of people to really accept. And then when they do accept that, figuring out, what can I actually let go of that I can trust somebody to do, because I will no longer be 100% in control of everything. And someone else has the ability to impact my business. And that's a huge leap when you're letting somebody else impact your business.
Okay. I want to rewind for a second to something you said that was really powerful. You said, we are the ones often holding ourselves back.
Yes.
And I just want that to resonate with people who are listening right now, because that really resonated with me. And I recognize oftentimes that I want these big things, but I'm the bottleneck. I'm the reason. I'm holding myself back from growth, from balance, from more free time, from whatever it might be. And I think there's lots of reasons, but I would say this control issue is a huge part of it. And I love how you said outsourcing, like you need to consider what can you outsource to someone that you can trust that they will do that. And I think that's really key. So what I'm hearing is, if you're an interior designer or decorator, maybe your first hire isn't someone who's pulling the design schemes together, because you're not ready to trust somebody else. They're not in your head. They don't know your design aesthetic. They don't know how you see things, but maybe that person could help with admin, or that person could help with AutoCAD drawings, or.
Yes, exactly. And that's, if you think about it, what makes your company different than another company? And you're like, well, it's me, it's my eye, it's my designs. And a lot of times your organization, your business is built around you and what you bring to the table and how you are different than that other company. So yeah, bringing someone in at first at that high level, that's going to be a second you, that then it's their creativity being pulled in. It's really hard to do that from a letting go perspective, because we're so attached to the business that we created. So you're absolutely right. In most places, it's going to be those more junior team members that you bring in first, that person that can help you with the tasks that you personally do not need to be doing. That it might be, I need you to go and pick this up from a vendor. I need you to go and here's the idea. I need you to clean it up. I need you to do these things where they don't need to be in your creative mind in order to be able to do it. It's the things that don't take your creative mind that they're going to go do.
Yeah. So good. So good. I mean, I've made so many hiring mistakes. That's a whole other episode, but I love that advice. And I often say to designers, like, what are the things that you don't enjoy doing, that you're not really good at? I think it was Richard Branson who talked about this concept of hire people that are smarter than you in certain areas, right? Get somebody who's way better at doing your AutoCAD drawings than you could be. They do it faster, they do it better. And that's where you really start to see, I think, the momentum inside your business. It's exciting. But how do you get there? Like, this is the thing. And I know people are listening and they're thinking, yeah, I know I need to hire. Like, what do you say to the business owner who gets it? They're like, yes, Jamie, all the things. I totally struggle with giving up control. I know I need to hire to grow and to like give myself some sanity, let's be honest, because you can't do everything. But how do you make that first leap? Like, how do you even know? I don't know if you want to go there, but do you work on what you can afford to hire, or what is the process for hiring? Like, do you need to create a list of what you're looking for? Like, what is sort of that first hurdle that somebody needs when they are ready to make that leap, but they don't know what's next?
Yeah. So I think there's a bunch of things that we can talk about here. So let's first talk about the affordability, because I feel like that is something that holds a lot of people back. And at first, you need to look at what you can afford within your current revenue. At first, this position is going to be a cost to your business, and your current revenue is going to have to support that team member. Ideally, you're going to eventually get a return on your investments. And because you bring in a team member, you're then able to do more in your business, which possibly means serve more clients, take on another project, where then this cost of this team member should be covered by that additional you can bring in. But yes, right away, you need to be able to cover the costs within your business. So you need to look to say, what can I afford? And the thing is, as business owners, we do this all the time. We invest in a coach. We look to say, can I afford it? Can I make this investment in my business? We have a software that we want to use. And some software, I know a lot of it's now software as a service where you pay a monthly fee, but there are still some softwares I know out there where you have to pay an initial fee. And we look at that and say, okay, yeah, it's worth it for my business. But all of a sudden, when it comes to handing someone a paycheck versus like paying for an expert to help you for a short time, or paying for software, paying for these other things, we kind of hold back and we're very tight with our money. And so we need to look at it to say, this is a worthy investment to pay somebody, but what can I realistically afford?
Yeah.
And chances are your first hire, when you go out the gate, you're not going to be able to afford a full-time team member. If you haven't been paying someone and then all of a sudden you're going to say, I'm going to go and hire someone for 40 hours a week, unless you're making a lot of profit in your business, you're probably not going to be able to do that. So it's going to be looking more at most likely part-time. And part-time's a really good place to start because once again, if you've been doing it all on your own, do you have enough to sustain another full-time employee? Unless you're ready to take a big step back from your business. So a lot of times I say start small. You can always quickly scale, but start small. And one of the things you need to realize there, it might mean that the person you hire for example, my first employee was 10 hours a week. The person you hire for 10 hours a week might not be able to scale up to 20 hours a week, but get everything you can out of that person for 10 hours a week. Learn how it is to delegate, how it is to have another person on your team. So that way, even if you do have to switch people when you need someone for more, you feel like you're in a better place, that you're doing things right, that you've learned how to manage, you've learned how to let go and give up control.
So a question I get a lot from designers, I'm curious your take on it, is it better to hire a, air quotes, mini me who can do a little bit of everything like an assistant? Or is it better to hire someone for a specific role like admin or technical drawings or whatever it might be?
Yeah, great question. All right, so let's break down this mini you that does a little bit of everything. You're doing a little bit of everything in your business because you have to do it. Because if you don't do it right now, it doesn't get done. But if you think about it, there's things that you're doing that you're not good at. Are you good at everything that you're doing? And chances are the answer is no.
No, hell's no. I'm not good at everything I do.
If you hire another person like you who can do it all, there's also going to be things that they're not good at, that they're doing just because it's part of their roles and responsibilities and not because it's something that they thrive at. And so it could potentially be hurting your business by giving tasks to somebody that is not very good at them or that doesn't really thrive in that area, want to do that. One of the things, for example, and this happens with so many businesses, is everyone wants to be quick to give somebody a sales responsibility if they're ever in a position where they're going to be talking to customers. And the thing is, like, this is, I feel like sometimes the easiest once I break it down for people to see kind of what's going on. If someone is really good at sales and enjoys that customer interaction, what's going to happen? They're going to be making those connections. They're going to be talking those things. They're going to be bringing revenue into your business. You're going to be like, yes, you're bringing revenue into my business, which then gives them the motivation to keep doing those tasks. And that other work then starts to slide. And at first you let it slide because they're bringing revenue into your business. And then you reach this point where you're like, oh my gosh, but the rest of this work's not getting done. But how do I tell them not to go do this and do this? And now I'm going to overload them because I want them to do everything. And things end up slipping. And then the same person, it could be the other way. They're not good at sales.
I was going to say that's more likely. The other way is more likely with creatives hiring. Like nobody likes the sales. I mean, I'm generalizing, but.
Yeah. But then you have this team member who's not good at sales, doesn't like having those conversations, and they let those tasks slip because they're really good at everything else. And then you're looking at it, it's like, oh my gosh, I have this person that's supposed to be helping me bring in revenue for my business and they're not doing it. So they must be failing as an employee. And it's mostly because you're putting tasks on one plate that for most people, they cannot be successful in all those tasks. So in a lot of cases, I say you're better off hiring multiple experts than people trying to do it all.
Yes.
And you do have some people as assistants that are good at wearing multiple hats, but you have to make sure those multiple hats are close enough that they can do it. If they're too far apart, don't put them together in the same role.
So Jamie, I really wish that I had met you like 5 years ago or more. No, probably like 8 years ago when I started my business, because I feel like that was my mistake. Like everyone listening, please don't make the same mistakes I've made. That like I'm hearing you and I know it, and I've had a few conversations, but this has just been it's just really landing with me today. That's what I did. I didn't try to hire a mini me, but I tried to hire someone who could just help. and do everything. And they had to do tasks. And this is more than one person. This isn't just like one person who was with me. It's like throughout the years, I've had people who are strong maybe in one area, but then they prove that they can help in the other areas. Right. And so they're like, I could do AutoCAD and I can source, but I can also do your invoicing. And then I can do that. Like, yes. And the other challenge with hiring someone who wears many hats, I will say, is if they're a woman, I'm generalizing, you guys, I know I do this on the podcast because I see it, it's true. They might be afraid to say no, and they might be people pleasing you. And so they will say yes to when I like in the past, like throughout the years, over many years, I'll say, oh, this thing needs to get done. Can you do it? Yes, I can do it. And yes, they can do it, but they also have all these other unrelated tasks to do. And so, like you said, things start to slip through the cracks. And what slips through the cracks, now I've seen, and you've just iterated it so clearly, are the tasks that person either isn't as strong at or isn't as passionate about.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's been my biggest mistake. And I make that mistake over and over again. So I don't learn. But lately I've been more intentional in my own business because now we're doing coaching and a podcast in addition to running an interior design firm. And so there's a lot of hats, and it's two businesses kind of under one umbrella. And I'm not closing down one business to focus on the other. I'm running both. And so it's really helped me actually focus in on multiple part-time people, which kind of went against what I used to want to do. And I think I'd love to have this conversation about salary versus contract and part-time, but I used to just have this dream of I want all these salaried employees. It'll be simple. I don't have to like think about it. I know the money comes out every month or every 2 weeks or every week or whatever your pay plan is. And it's great. And we're like this happy team and we can do things. And I don't have to sweat over every hour that they're spending because they're on salary. And this is something I'd love us to talk about. But now I'm seeing the benefit because it's hard to find if you only have resources for 3 full-time people, but you have a million hats, those 3 full-time people are not going to be able to do all the hats well.
Right.
It's almost better to have 5, maybe 2 full-time and like 4. No, that doesn't add up to 5, 3 part-time. I'm not feeling well, guys. I'm going to say that's why my math is wrong. Right. So then you've got a few part-time, but the part-timers are really strong in the area they're helping with.
Yes.
I know I just talked about a million different things, but I just think that's 2 things that came out of that for me is the idea of like salary versus part-time, which I'd love to dive into. And this idea that, the hourly. So one of my first obstacles, and I don't know if you get this from your clients, Jamie, but one of the first obstacles I had when I first started to hire, and it was always on contract part-time initially, was I was obsessed with what it was costing me. And every hour to the point where I'd be looking at the clock and I would say, okay, you can go for the day. Because in my head, I was just constantly calculating how much money this person was costing me. Like I hadn't yet understood that return on my investment. Do you maybe want to speak to that first, and then we can talk about the different types of hires?
Yeah, definitely. It is one of those things that it is a mindset shift. Like I said, like we have no problem paying for systems. We have no, like those other things that like kind of tangible and electronical things that we need to run our business. But when it comes to paying people, an employee, it's like all of a sudden we count every cent. I even talk about this a lot when it comes to people are resistant to give their employees raises, but they don't think twice when the cost of their software goes up or the cost of their rent goes up, as long as it goes up within a reasonable amount. But all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, I have to give my employee a raise. Why? But a lot of these people have those thoughts are also people-focused people. Like they're ones that in their organization are always putting their people first. But then when it comes to this money, handing over money, it's this like complete shift. And the way to think about it is a position is going to cost you, let's say a part-time, like hourly position. You can put a cap on the amount of hours that they're going to work a week. So that it's always, let's say they're working 10 hours a week, that you're always paying 10 hours for them. Yeah, if there's a week where, okay, there's a little bit less, maybe you let them go and you only pay them 9 hours. And if there's a week where you really, really need more help, you see if they can give you a few extra hours to get in there. But it's kind of getting that mindset is this, even though it's a fluctuating cost because their time could go up and down, that it's also in your mindset, start thinking about it as a fixed cost, that you're paying them X amount for so many hours a week. So it is going to cost you this amount a year, this amount a month, this amount a week. And once again, there could be a little bit of fluctuation, but getting in that mindset of, I am paying this much. This is how much it costs me to have a team member. So stop thinking about the fact that you're paying them hourly and start thinking about just how much does it cost to have that team member. So that way you're not counting the hours, you're not counting the minutes, because it probably was going to happen is if you're doing that, you're stressing out so much about it that you're not letting them really perform in their zone of expertise.
Oh my God, no. Oh my God, no. My very first intern hire who turned into like a part-time hire, I was like literally in this room where I'm recording right now, my son's bedroom, it was my home office. We were all set up and there was a clock there between the windows. Like I remember it like it was yesterday. And she was this lovely girl. And I remember looking up and being like, okay, I mean, she's doing like, how much has she done in the last hour? Like I was obsessed with, I could have done that AutoCAD faster, or like, why hasn't she already left to go to Cravat already? Like time is ticking, because to me, I was so obsessed with time as money because I didn't have a lot of it. And there was a scarcity mindset, which you mentioned, right? And so it was a shift for me when I decided to stop paying attention to the hourly and look at it in a bigger picture.
Yeah.
Like how much does it cost me to keep my business afloat in a month or in a year, and just accept that it's, and whatever, whether it's 10 hours a week or and now I have people where it's like, they give me 20 hours a week. This other person gives me 25 hours and they have to let me know if they think it's going to be more.
Right.
And if it's less, then that can be banked. So maybe next week they put in a couple extra hours, and that gives me as the business owner a bit more control in a way of understanding the money that's going out. But the beginning, because for those who are listening and haven't hired yet, or maybe you know that feeling of looking at the clock thinking like, why isn't the person doing it faster? Why isn't it's taking up mental space from your ability. Like it takes away from the fact that you've hired in the first place, right?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And the thing about it is, like with the example you just gave, you hired someone as an intern who then eventually moved up to being an employee, but they're still junior. If they're coming from that intern space, they're still learning, they're still perfecting their skill. And here you are, this business owner who's running your business, who's reached the point where you can afford to bring on help, even if it is part-time help, which means you're good at what you do. You're not a junior. So looking at it and saying, well, I could have done it in 1 hour and it's taken them 2 hours. Yeah, but you also have years more experience than they do. But that hour that it saved you, what are you doing in that hour that is worth more than what you're paying them in the course of the 2 hours it takes them to do? So if in that hour, you can go and meet with a new potential client and get a new project in that's then bringing all this additional revenue. And let's say you're paying someone $15 an hour, and that's $30 that you paid your team member because it took them 2 hours for this task. All right, is that $30 worth it for what you were able to do for your business during that time? Chances are it's yes. So even when we are looking and we're paying someone hourly, you still want to look at it as like, what are they doing overall? Are they reaching the goals and objectives of why you added this position to your organization? Are they helping to move the projects through in the cadence and the pace that they're supposed to be? Are they helping you meet client expectations, or are they meeting client expectations themselves based on what tasks and roles and responsibilities they own? Are they doing the things that you hired them to do? Are they being successful in the role? And if they are, then you need to be happy with that and not really looking at it as like, ooh, but maybe they had 15 minutes of downtime. Yeah. And why didn't they do something during that 15 minutes of downtime?
I want to add something to what you said there, because I know we've got a lot of parents listening to this podcast. Or not just parents, really anyone, but I think this speaks to the mamas out there. It's not just that, okay, I paid this person $30 to do that task, so it freed me up to do a money generating activity. It might also be that person, you paid them $30 to finish those tasks so that you had the freedom to go pick up your kids from school, so that you didn't have to work after you put your kids to bed, Like I'm getting emotional talking about this because I hear so many designers in our community are working around the clock. They started their business because they want freedom. They have young kids or whatever age, and they are not being present because they think they have to put in this time right now to grow their business. And so they're feeling burnt out. They have no balance. And so there's a huge benefit to looking at it as well as as not only a time savings for, yes, you can do different activities to generate more money, but you can also do nothing or do something and get a massage so that you are mentally more capable and more prepared for the next client, for the next day.
100%. Like, so looking back, even though I'm the expert that helps people with hiring, it's sometimes, there's that saying of the cobbler's children has no shoes. So there's things where I'm like, I constantly coach other people through this in their business. And then I'm just like, oh, wait, why am I not doing this myself? And having to like really be that person that consciously think about things in my own business. So going back, I think it was about a year and a half ago now, but 2 years ago, I realized that I needed a team member. I needed help. And I went to go through the process of hiring my very first part-time employee. She was working for me 10 hours a week, and she was amazing. She started with me beginning of May, and July, I was out of the office pretty much at least 3 days every week in the month of July because we had family trips and like other things going on or the kids being out of school. And the only reason my business was able to really survive was because I had somebody that was doing everything behind the scenes. So I could just show up and do what I needed to do for my clients, for my business, and not have to worry about any of that. Like we do a lot of full service recruiting where we're reviewing resumes and doing interviews for our clients. And at that point in time, I was still doing all the interviews for our clients myself. And I could know that I would be out on a Monday. I would show up on Tuesday, have my day full of interviews that needed to get done, but they were all scheduled. I didn't have to talk to a single candidate before I showed up because someone else was handling that. And I showed up and I did what I needed to do. And it was just an amazing month where it was one of the highest revenue months in my business ever. And I got to spend so much time with my family, and my business didn't suffer. My clients didn't suffer. Most of my time, my clients didn't even know I was out of the office on some of those days because I had someone that was doing that work behind the scenes. And and it was amazing.
Yeah, I think that's a really good message because I think there's so much balance that we're looking for. And now a question for you, actually. Did you ever feel guilty that you weren't the one in the office working? Did you feel guilty that this assistant was doing tasks and you weren't there and you were off doing fun things with your kids?
I didn't no, but I feel like the way that it was set up, we were both working virtual. We were both working from home. So it wasn't like I was requiring her to go into a space without me. And she also wasn't necessarily working set like 9 to 5 hours when she was doing it. Sometimes she was working in the evenings. So it was really one of those things of, we're both going to do what we need to do to get things done this week. She's responsible for her tasks, and her tasks are not dependent on me being there. And like we would have meetings throughout the week where, we both needed to be available at the same time. But it was just that way of setting up of like really putting the full authority in her hands for the position that she had. So I didn't feel like she needed me to be there. Now I can see it if it turned into one of those things where I felt like I was never working in a team doing everything for me, that maybe there'd be that little bit of guilt. But eventually, isn't that what we want?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, this is what we want. The reason I ask is because that was something that I experienced. I know if I experienced, somebody else also has experienced it, where the more I started to build up a team, if I decided, excuse me, I'm coughing all the time. If I decided to, I still feel it, to be honest with you, if I'm being completely honest, like I'm like Fridays, like I'm going to book off Fridays this winter because we're going up skiing at the hill and I want to take my kids up early. It's not the clients that I'm worried about because I know they're taken care of. It's like, I still, and this is maybe just my own inner shit that I need to work on. I sometimes feel guilty that my team has to work, even though they're getting paid for their job. So it's a crazy thought. And it's taken me some time to get over that. It's okay. Like, I'm the boss. It's okay if I'm not working right now and other people are working. So I wanted to just touch on that because I think somebody else, if I've experienced that, somebody else has too.
Right.
And so that's great to hear that you really didn't. I think virtual has changed things for sure. I think having a lot of interior designers do have people in office because a lot of what we do is collaborative and a lot of it is hands-on. So it is a bit different. Like, your team might be in the office, like sorting out fabrics, working on CAD plans. But they might also be virtual. So I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
I want it. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I feel like with that, that is one of those mindset shifts of, you don't necessarily need to be there every minute your team's being there, that you can take a vacation. I've worked with business owners before where their whole thing was building up their team so they could actually take a vacation and not have to work on their vacation. So It is one of those things where it's sometimes, it is really, a lot of times it might manifest in different ways, but it's kind of that control thing. It's like, well, I'm leading the ship. How can the ship be led if I'm not there?
Yeah.
But the other part of it that sometimes we have to look at is, are we feeling guilty because we're able to take this time and spend with our families and not appreciating our employees in the way where they're able to take time and spend with their families as well? So those are some of the things of looking at, well, what is your vacation policy? What is your policy when it comes to being flexible? Do you have a way where maybe it's not every Friday, but if they want to go do a weekend away where they can if they're like a part-time hourly employee, push their work earlier in the week so they can take a Friday off or take a Monday off with still being able to get their work done? Can they go, even if their position is mostly in the office, is there an opportunity for them to work from home when needed? So sometimes if we're really feeling that guilt, it's look at, what are we allowing ourselves to do that we don't allow our teams to do? And at the end of the day, you are the business owner, you are the boss. You are probably going to have a little bit more privilege than they have, but is that privilege distributed fairly and adequately across your company? Or are they feeling like you're the boss that's never around while they're sitting here doing all the work, and you don't allow them to have a work-life balance or be able to focus on their family or things like that? So
I have heard designers say that, like, oh, my team sees me as never around and that type of thing. But I actually think maybe for me, it's much more, and someone else might resonate with this, about my own beliefs and values about my own time, and recognizing that it's okay if I'm not productive. Because personally, I value productivity so much. This is something I've learned about myself over the last 10 years, that it's like, I don't allow myself to rest. It has nothing to do with my team. But then when I see that there's people working for me, it's like, I feel extra guilty. Already I feel weird that I'm not at work because I've been programmed to just work, because that was the model that was what I was modeled as a kid. We're going real deep on the therapy here, guys. So I think that that's a mindset shift, and that's something that we're not going to dive into today, but I just think it's worth talking about. Okay. Oh, so many things. So we were going to talk about salary versus part-time. I kind of want to shift though, because I feel like you mentioned something that was really interesting to me, which was, it has to do maybe with onboarding process a little bit. You talked about vacation. Yeah. Can we talk a little bit about the importance of that? Because that's something that I did not have for years. I was like, great, you're hired. You could start tomorrow. And then they would come and I was like, I'd be so stressed out. I didn't have lists of what they needed to do. They were kind of waiting and asking and waiting for my approval. And it sometimes felt like a make work project. And I've heard designers say that they hire someone and then they just feel like that person is just putting more work on them because they have to review their stuff and their stuff isn't right. And then they have to give them direction and they just want to get their job done. They're like, oh no, I'll just source the fabrics. You clearly don't understand what I mean by pinstripe, so I'll do it. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Onboarding is such an important part of the process. It's like most people think that hiring ends like when you make that offer letter and that person walks in on their first day. But onboarding
I think most people wish. Yes. We all wish, trust me.
Yes, but onboarding is so essential. Like even in large corporate organizations, Companies that have very thorough onboarding processes have higher retention rates. And it's about really bringing that person in and making them feel valued from day one. So a good onboarding process makes that team member feel valued, that you're actually going to put the time and attention into them to make it so they can be successful within the organization. That also you were prepared for them to come in. Because can you imagine being that person walking in and it's like, oh, we don't have any accounts set up for you. You can't log on. You can't do this. You can't do that. Oh, just sit over there in the corner and wait for your hours to go through, and then you can go home. Like, you kind of feel like, wait, they did offer me this job. They knew I was coming, right? So you really want a process that makes them feel valued. But also, you need a process that can work with your availability, because let's face it, most of the time we're hiring because we're limited on time, or there's things that we can't do. There's things we're not getting to in our business. And so if you're already limited on time, there's no way you have 40 hours in a week to train someone if you're hiring someone full-time, for example. So what do you do? How do you create a process that makes someone feel valued, gets someone up to speed, and is not overly taxing on your time? The first thing that I'll say is hire strategically, meaning that when you go to make that offer letter, if you know that, let's say, typically the time between when someone accepts an offer and someone starts for you is 2 weeks, because people give notice, they're currently working another job. So typically that's a 2-week period. If you know that 1 week is going to be super, super busy because of where you are with some of your projects, don't have them start that week. Have them start the following week. If Mondays are chaos in your business because of just the way you run things and work with things, like I had a client that they had a lot of their team meetings on Mondays. Mondays were super busy when it came to production and like all those things. Have that team member start on a Tuesday. They don't have to start on a Monday. So have that person start at the best time for you, but also know that you have to make time for this person. So can't keep putting it off.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. The other thing is have a plan. And this is, we help our clients put together onboarding plans. And this plan is it's more of an outline than very, very detailed. We don't go through and plan out every minute of the day, but we plan out saying, what does this person need to know the first week? Or first day? What does this person need to then know the rest of the first week? What do they need to learn the second week? What do they need to learn the third week? And we put it together in a way that progresses. So they need to know A before they know B. Well, now that they know A, what can they do? What training can they self-serve on? What can they do on their own now that they know this? It very well could be, all right, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to first tell you about who we are as a brand and like all those things, go through a little bit more of that in-depth training than you did during like communicating during the hiring process, or what they can really learn as an outsider. Now they're in your company. So you're going to teach them about your brand, your style, the type of projects you work on. And then maybe you have them just go and look through some of your old files. Here's some of our old client files. Here's how to access them. Go look at the designs we put together. Go look maybe at the communication threads with the clients, like how we got from A to Z on this project. It's some of those things where they can get hands-on on their own and you don't need to be there doing it. So when you put together this process that really takes them through step by step of being able to grow and progress and learn more, it's less taxing on your time. So one of the things that we do at Growing Your Team is we have our own podcast, the Growing Your Team podcast. When a new member comes on, one of the tasks they have throughout the first 2 weeks is to go and listen to a certain number of episodes. It's something they can do completely on their own.
Oh my God, I love this.
And it helps them learn about our brand. It helps them learn, what do we talk about? How do we view certain topics? They can go and pick which 10 episodes. We do a mix of guest episodes and solo episodes. We say 50% need to be solo episodes, 50% need to be guest episodes, but it gives them a way to do something on their own and learn about our company at the same time. And I also would say, hey, you don't need to be sitting at your desk and doing this. You need to get up and go for a walk, because sometimes training can be overwhelming. It's a fire hose. Go listen on your headphones while you're walking around. Listen on your headphones while you're making dinner, and I'm still paying you for that time that you're listening to my episode. So it's kind of a way of giving them something to do that they can do 100% on their own. So I don't have to be there training them. And also the last thing that I'll just share about onboarding plans is just remember it's a progress. Someone has to go from day one, brand new employee, to a person that can meet your expectations. They're not going to get there right away, and there's steps along the way. How long it takes them to get there is going to depend on the role. It's going to depend on their background. It's going to depend on a lot of things. But know that you should be looking for milestones along the way. So when we talk about of like, okay, they can't do this yet. They're not excelling at this yet. Well, what is that first milestone of excelling? That first one could be that, okay, well, they just need to witness. They need to learn. They need to watch you doing it. They need to be kind of that fly in the wall as you're doing it. Then you guys are going to do it together. And as they're going through and they're doing it, you're doing it together and you're watching them doing it. It's like, okay, well, now they progress to the next thing where they're going to do it and you're going to review all their work. And then eventually progress to they're going to do it and you're going to spot check their work.
But Jamie, I'm going to be totally honest. This sounds like a lot of freaking work. I'm just going to say it because someone's listening and they're like, I'm already busy enough doing my job. This is what I say all the time. I'm like, oh my gosh, on hiring, like, first of all, finding the right hire, onboarding the person, and then like onboarding them properly, which clearly I'm not doing all of these milestones, is so much extra time. Like, I feel like I need to have someone do that for me. It's so much work.
It is a lot of time and it is a lot of work and effort, which is why you really need to focus on making sure that you're getting the right person, that we're not just putting a butt in a seat, that we're really finding the right person for your position. So once you put in all this effort, they are the person that's going to stay with you, that you're going to be happy with, and you're not having to repeat it again. But the thing is, when you go through it in that right cadence and you're really getting the right person in and you're delegating and trusting and knowing how to train somebody, it can be a lot smoother than you're really expecting. And then when I say is like kind of know how to train somebody, you have to remember that you've been doing this. This is your business. You have all this in your head. For you, the stuff that you're doing is second nature. So even if you hire someone that is good at what they do, so with, let's say, CAD drawings, they know how to do that, but they don't know how to do it yet for your company, your expectations, your creative thought process. So those are the things that you need to teach them. They might know the technical, but they need to learn how to do it for you. And that's where you really need to focus and teach and also let go. So with everything that you're going to tell them of this, it needs to be done this way. Why does it need to be done that way? And if your only answer is, because I said so,
because that's the way we do it,
then that might be one of those things of, does it really need to be done that way? Or is there some flexibility there? But there's some things where if you really think about it, well, it needs to be done this way because our clients hire us because we specialize in XYZ. This is our style as an organization. This is what we do. Then that's your why. So it's not like, well, we specialize in this and we want to give this just because I said so. It's no, this is why our clients hire us. This is what we do. And then it's like, oh, okay, reiterating that this is an important part of the design process. This isn't something that you just threw in there because you wanted. Like, this is important. This is what this matches the client's expectations. And it's really helped solidifying that why.
I think too, I mean, this brings me back to process. And I'm like a broken record on my own podcast because I feel so strongly about it. But until you have your own set way of doing things, it's really challenging to teach somebody new how to do things because you don't even really know. And that's where like the course that I have is called Power of Process because it's powerful to have a process. And I walk designers through exactly how you can establish like steps, phases, repeatable systems in your business. Not only helps your freaking mental sanity and your customers have a better experience, but the third, like the trifecta of it all, is it helps you onboard new hires. And it's not just salaried employees I'm hearing. Like, it also helps with someone on contract, a freelancer, to come in and say, oh, okay, this is what you do from A to Z. Got it. Right? Yeah, there's questions, but now you have the backup and it makes it a little bit easier.
100%. Like, I have people come to me that are saying, okay, I need help with hiring. And then through the conversations, I learned that they don't have their processes figured out yet. And they're like, oh, we'll figure it out once we get that person in. And I literally tell people all the time, like, no, you need to figure this out first. Here are people that you can go talk to that will help you figure this out. Because otherwise, we might hire the wrong person. You might not really need help in the areas you think you need help with. And then we're going to spend all this time and money and effort to get the wrong person into your organization. And then you're just going to have to repeat everything. Because once again, hiring and onboarding and all that stuff takes so much time and effort. You don't want to do it to just end up with the wrong person.
Yeah, totally. Oh my God. So many things to talk about, so little time. So this is basically what you do, right? It sounds like this is how you help. You help
Yes.
business owners by helping them hire. Can you maybe just share a little bit about that? And I do want to hear your nugget of wisdom. So don't hang up the dial, but I want to just understand a little bit how you can help small business owners with this hiring aspect once, of course, they have their process established, because it seems a little overwhelming.
Yes. Yeah. So we really focus on helping business owners through the hiring process so they can get that right person on their team, mostly from a focus of helping you master the art of hiring, really learn who it is that you need, and then how to find that particular person. So we work with our clients in a few different ways, but every way centers around first identifying who your ideal candidate is. And it's one of those things of you could be hiring, let's say, an assistant, but your assistant might look very different than the assistant of another interior design company. So who do you need? Who are you going to be happy with? What do they need to do inside your organization? So we start from there, and then we create 100% custom job postings and interview guides to help you find that person. From there, how we help our clients is where things differ. We have some clients that say, hey, that's all I really need. I need this job posting. I need these interview guides. I know how to use them. And they go do everything 100% on their own. We have clients that say, all right, this is great, but I recognize that I am the person who is screwing up with hiring. I need to learn how to hire. I need to learn how to interview. I need to be motivated to make decisions. And we then do consulting where we're guiding you through the process. We're teaching you how to do every step of the process so that way you can actually master the art of hiring and get the right person on your team. And then we also do full service recruiting because some of our clients, they are so, I would say, underwater with work on their plate. And they look at it and it's like, this is great, but I don't have time to review resumes. I don't have time to do initial interviews. So myself and my team, we come in and we take over the entire front process of the recruiting process. So we post a job, we review every candidate, we complete first round interviews, and then we hand our clients the top people that are worthy of their time so they can do a final interview with just those few people, help them make their decision. And then, of course, we help them with the onboarding process.
Oh my God, I love it. I love it. Quick question. Do you also help business owners determine who to hire or what role to hire?
Yes. So if businesses are coming to us to a point where they really don't know yet, where there's like, okay, I need someone on my team. What does this position look like exactly? We will back up the process a little bit and start there. We'll figure out who exactly is it that you need. What should this position look like in terms of roles and responsibilities? Going back to earlier in the conversation, which hats should go together if there's multiple needs within your business, and we'll help them figure out that. So yeah, if someone doesn't know exactly who to hire, we'll help them figure out. Most of our clients that we work with are filling roles for the first time. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's their very first employee, but it's like this role is new to their business. Right. So what exactly should this role look like? How exactly does it fit in with the bigger picture?
I love that you made that distinction because I think a lot of people listening may have hired someone at some point, whether they're still with them or not, but are looking to who's the next person? What is it? Because as you grow a small business, as you know, Jamie, you don't have this org chart where, I need to fill this role and now we need to fill that role and it's already predetermined. It's like, okay, what's the next role to help us? Here's what we're dealing with. And that's something like, even for me, I'm at a point in my like coaching business where I'm like, okay, I have someone helping with marketing. I have somebody helping with the coaching and the podcast, but it feels like it's not enough. And so understanding, okay, what is our next move? Is it a full-time? Is it another part-time to tackle these three hats? Like, I think that service would be extremely valuable to small business owners as they grow, because a lot of us want to hire, but don't know what it needs to look like. So I think that's awesome. Okay.
Exactly.
Because we're going to go way over time. I would love for you to share a last nugget of wisdom with our listeners today that you think is just a really great takeaway.
Yeah. So I'm going to build off of something that I just shared. And I have this quote that I always like to say, and I say it over and over again, is just because someone is good at what they do does not mean they're right for you. So we really need to focus.
Hold on. Can you say that again? That's
Yes.
really good.
Just because someone is good at what they do does not mean they're right for you.
I love it.
So with hiring, you really need to figure out, who do you need? So we don't want to go out there and hire off the same job posting that another company used, because who they need is different than who you need. The roles might be similar. The tasks that this person might be doing are similar, but your organization has a different culture. You are a different boss. So who are you going to be happy with? Who's going to fit inside your organization? And when you're really narrowed down on who it is you need, then you can speak to that person throughout the entire hiring process. When we write job postings, we're speaking directly to that person. We want a job posting to turn away people. We want people to look at that and say, nope, that's not me. I'm not going to apply, because we want the person that's going to read that and say, yes, this is the job that I need. When we know who we need, we also can be very specific about our interview questions that we ask to uncover, not only can this person do the tasks, but can they do it in the way that's going to make us happy? Are they going to fit into our culture the way that works for us? And culture not being like, I want to go out and have a drink on Friday happy hour after we're done with working. Culture means how your team interacts, how you interact with your clients, what are your values, like all these things that make up who your company is and how your company is different than that other organization that does pretty much the exact same things as you.
Oh my God. Jamie, this is exactly what we talk about with attracting clients.
Yes,
it's no
really
different.
is.
Right?
Yep.
Like you need to know who you want to serve, because you're not going to serve everyone. So find who that client is, and you are going to some people are going to be turned off by either your prices or your style, and that's okay. It's like the same concept. So fascinating. I just had a thought and it left me. I know, and we've gone over time, but if you bear with me, one more thing. What value is personality when you're hiring? Because you mentioned they might be right for the job. Like they might have the right skill set. What's more important?
So skill is definitely super important. The person needs to be able to do the job, but personality is important as well, because they need to be able to, once again, fit in your culture. You can't have someone working with you that every time they open your mouth to you, it's like nails on a chalkboard where you're like, oh my gosh, I can't stand this. Like, why do they think that way? Like, what's going on? Like, where you just clash. And in a small business, personality doesn't really hide. It's not like you have this large corporation where it's like, okay, we're only going to interact every once in a while. They're really good at what they're doing. I'm going to put up with it. You need to make sure that things align. And that could look very differently, because like we talked about before, like hiring that mini you, a lot of people say, I want someone who has a very similar personality. If I'm really outgoing and, like all those things where you're like, I want someone that's like me. And it might mean that you need someone who's going to balance you, who's going to be slightly different. But even then, you need to make sure that you're not bringing in someone that you're going to clash with. Mm-hmm. And so you really, when you're going through the process, like really finding out, can I work with this person? So put the judgment of, can they do the job first, but then have that extra layer of, can I work with this person? Can I manage this person?
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. It was on my mind the whole episode, and I thought we just need to talk about this, because I've made the mistake of hiring just for skill set and just thinking like, oh, they've got this incredible skill set and this incredible experience, they're perfect. But then they didn't gel with the team and it was challenging. So I think that's so important.
Yep. And that's one of those things. They were good at what they do, but they weren't right for you.
Yeah. And I love that you said that. So many takeaways today. Like, Jamie, thank you so much. So designers, stop just copying another designer's Instagram post that says we're hiring, because you're doing it, because I've done it, where you're like, oh, they're hiring a junior designer. Look at all the things they're asking. I'm just going to copy and paste their job description and put it on my Instagram or my LinkedIn or my whatever. You heard it here first. Stop doing that.
Yes.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Jamie. It was so nice to chat with you.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Wait, because I'm sick. I'm not fully with it. can you please let our audience know where they can find you and follow you and learn all the things?
Yes. So you can find us over at growingyourteam.com. We are also on Instagram at Growing Your Team. And if you're ready to explore getting help for your business, you can schedule a call with me at growingyourteam.com/jumpstart.
Awesome. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
Okay, I thought that was a really beneficial conversation. It's really got me thinking about our onboarding process and the things that we kind of need to tidy up when we want to bring on some new people, because we are looking to bring on new people. We've got some exciting projects, design projects down the pipeline. We've got some exciting coaching projects down the pipeline, and I am not going to attempt to do it all anymore. But I wanted to just bring back to something that Jamie said that really stuck out to me, that I never really thought of, but it makes a lot of sense. This idea that in a small business, personality doesn't really hide, right? I really like that, because I've said so many times to people like, oh, pay attention to personality. You need to hire for personality. And what I like is how she frames that, in that it's a small business. Everyone is interacting with everyone. It's not like you're going to work for a large telecommunications firm and you just have to interact with people in your department, and whoever hires you doesn't really care if you get along with them or not, because you're probably never going to have an interaction with them, let's be honest. So I just think that's a really great reminder that personality matters. And it doesn't mean, like she said, that you're hiring someone who has the same personality with you, but the last thing you want is somebody who you don't get or that you butt heads with. So it's something that I think your interview questions can really be tailored to pull that out. And I know that that is something that Jamie helps with in her business. So go check her out, give her a follow. I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. I'll see you soon.